Chosen one. You've been tested and you have passed. Only 1%. You've made it through a storm that few even recognized, let alone survived. You are not just among the strong. You are among the rare. The 1% who chose faith when it didn't make sense. The 1% who stayed loyal when silence screamed louder than promise. You didn't collapse when the weight increased. You didn't run when pressure rose. And that is what made the heavens mark you. You see, this message isn't for the masses. This isn't a call for comfort. It's a confirmation of completion, a completion of a cycle, a completion of a divine test, a final stamp that only few worthy receive. And yes, that includes you. That's why you must stay until the very end of this message. Because your journey isn't random, it's sacred. It's stitched into divine timelines. Your presence here is not by chance. It's their salt of alignment. So stay with me through this video and write your warmest wish and 99 in the comments. That act of faith alone can begin unlocking the next layer of favor for you. Let your energy energize the universe and activate what is already on the way. Now chosen one, like this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel. And let's begin. You were not born to be ordinary. You were born with a spiritual contract, a soul-level assignment that required testing, training, trimming, and trials. You've walked through valleys most people don't come back from. And the fact that you're still standing, still believing, still showing up even with invisible bruises, that is your proof. Your suffering was not in vain. You've been observed, measured, evaluated not by people but by the divine. And the verdict is this. You have passed. The silence you endured, that was part of the test. The delay, part of the test. The rejection, the pain, the betrayal, all part of the test. You were chosen not for perfection, but for endurance. God didn't need someone perfect. He needed someone pure. Someone who wouldn't compromise. Someone who wouldn't water down their worth just to feel included. And that's what you are. You didn't settle even when your heart cried for peace. You didn't take shortcuts even when the path was unclear. You stayed on your assignment even when the instructions felt like riddles wrapped in fog. That's why the reward now coming to you is not average-based. Your obedience wasn't average. Now, let's talk about the word test. Most people think tests are about answering questions. But spiritual tests are about demonstrating your being. It's about your decisions when no one's watching. It's about your thoughts when the world turns quiet. It's about whether you chose faith when fear had facts. And the greatest test, it's when you had every reason to walk away. But you stayed. That moment where your soul whispered, I know I was called. Even when your life didn't look like the calling. That was it. That was when heaven leaned in. That was when the scales tipped. Let me tell you something powerful. The heavens do not forget silent victories. They do not overlook the tears that no one saw. They do not ignore the moment you forgave, when you could have fought. Every time you chose kindness over retaliation, trust over manipulation, hope over despair, you were passing. And most of the time, you didn't even know it. That's how divine tests work. They're disguised as disappointments, delays, and detours. But now the revelation comes. Now the light turns in. You've reached the threshold. The gate that was closed is now unlocking, not because you begged, but because you became. You became the version of you that was required to receive. You grew into the one who could carry the mantle. You walked into the frequency where only the 1% operate. Not in arrogance, but in alignment, not in performance, but in purpose. You didn't win because you knew how to fight. You won because you knew how to yield to growth. Yield to pruning, yield to divine timing, yield to process. That's the rare mark. That is hidden signature of those who are trusted with more. You see, being chosen isn't about being louder. It's about being clearer. You didn't just survive a test. You revealed who you really are. That's what tests do. They strip away illusions and reveal your essence. They shake the mask off and show your original identity. The divine test you went through, it wasn't to punish you. It was to prove you. Not to others, not even to yourself, but to the universe, to the divine realm, that you are who you said you were. That the anointing you carry isn't just for decoration. It's been forged in affliction, refined in silence, confirmed in obedience. You didn't just pass because you got through it. You passed because you didn't change who you were in it. You held on to your light. You protected your peace. You guarded your heart even when everything tried to break it. You didn't let the trial change your truth, and now shift is here. A divine announcement is being made in the spirit. The test is complete. The exam has ended. And heaven is writing your results with fire. Approved, anointed, advanced. Don't expect everyone to understand what's happening next for you. This next season will confuse those who only watched your struggle but never witnessed your faith.
They
Won't understand the favor because they didn't survive your fire, but you did. You endured. And endurance is currency in the kingdom. Your reward is not just survival, it is elevation. It is exposure to rooms that are familiarity for you. Rooms that were locked not because you were unworthy, but because you were unready. And now you're ready. You've passed. There's a when behind you now that wasn't there before. There's an invisible force aligning circumstances, whispering your name in places you haven't entered yet. Not because you asked, but because you endured. Not because you demanded, but because you trusted. The rare ones don't have talk knock down doors. They become the door. And now you are a portal, a walking stimony that tests are not signs of failure, but signs of promotion. This is your shift point. This is the turning moment. It will not look like what others have experienced because you didn't walk the same road. The test you endured was custom designed for your destiny. The pain you faced was proportionate to the purpose you now carry. And that's why elevation will be misunderstood. Because it's not just about favor, it's about fulfillment. This is prophecy being fulfilled in real time. This is what divine recognition looks like, and it is rare. It is the 1%, and that's exactly where you belong. And listen closely. You don't owe explanations for the breakthrough. You don't owe apologies for the anointing. You don't have to shrink to soothe the insecurities of those who didn't believe in you. You were tested in silence. And now you will be rewarded in visibility. What was private pain will become public power. What was hidden struggle will become heavenly spotlight. This is your emergence. You're revealing a reality that's already been prepared. But you had to qualify to access it. And now you've qualified. You didn't just pass a test. You unlocked an entirely new level of spiritual authority. You passed something ancient, sacred, and secret. The kind of test that doesn't come with papers or pencils. The kind that comes wrapped in delay, rejection, and silence. The kind that breaks people if they aren't spiritually grounded. And yet you, chosen one, were not only grounded, but rooted. You didn't get bitter, you got better. You didn't curse the darkness. You became the light. You didn't escape the fire. You endured it and came out refined, not destroyed. What you carry now can't be faked. It's not theory. It's truth. It's wisdom born from real pain, clarity birthed in real confusion, and purpose discovered in real warfare. The realm you just entered isn't for the passive, it's for the spiritually mature. And that is exactly what this test produced in you. Spiritual maturity, emotional depth, soul stability. You were stripped of the superficial because what you're about to carry cannot coexist with illusion. You had to lose the parts of you that would have sabotaged the promise. And yes, that process was painful, but necessary. Some things weren't removed to punish you. They were removed to preserve you, and you didn't resist the pruning. That's rare. That's why you're part of the 1%. See, most people want the promise but not the preparation. They want the reward without the realignment. But not you. You embraced the work. You did the soul excavation. You faced inner storms. You answered the divine call in the dark without applause, without evidence. That's where heaven knew you were serious. That's when destiny started leaning toward you. And now that procession has produced in you a spiritual weight, a gravity that can't be ignored. You carry authority now. You carry a divine seal. You walk with the fragrance of Simeon who knows what it costs to be chosen. Do you understand what you just proved to the divine realm? That you can be trusted with favor, trusted with expansion, trusted with secrets, trusted with visibility, trusted with influence because you won't idolize it. You pass the test not just for yourself, but for every life your obedience will impact in the days ahead. You're about to walk into places where your presence will shift atmospheres, not because of who you are, but because of what you've become. You are proof that spiritual refinement is real. You are proof that obedience pays off. You are proof that integrity is rewarded even when it's unseen. And the greatest mark of passing this test, your peace. Not the external one, but the internal kind. The kind that no storm can steal. The kind that doesn't depend on outcomes. The kind you earned through surrender. You didn't pass by force. You passed by flow. You didn't manipulate. You trusted. You didn't panic. You prayed. You didn't retaliate. You released. And that posture is rare. That heart posture is what opens the next phase of your assignment. You've proven that you don't serve for attention. You serve from alignment. And that chosen one is what separates the many from the few. From this point forward, don't be surprised when doors swing open without effort. Don't be confused when rooms make space for you that used to ignore you. You are now operating under divine momentum. What was hard before will now begin to flow. What was hidden will now begin to reveal. You won't have to force what God has already favored. You don't have to push into spaces that are now magnetized to your presence. You pass the test and know everything is responding to who you truly are. This is not about ego. It's about essence. Your essence has been clarified. Your identity has been purified and the divine knows it. Your voix will carry new weight. Your presence will shift dynamics. You'll find people drawing near, not just because of what you say, but because of what you carry. You are walking with spiritual power now, not noise, but depth. Not flash, but substance. You've become what you were designed to be. And that's what passing does. It transforms, it evolves, it separates. The separation was also part of the test. Don't resent what left. Don't grieve what had to go. You passed the test by releasing what wasn't aligned. You didn't cling, you didn't chase. You didn't compromise. To keep company. And that too was seen. That's what the divine was looking for. Not just what you could handle, but what you were willing to let go of to stay in alignment. You walked away from what many would have clung to. You remained centered even when everything tried to unbalance you. And now balance is being restored. Not just emotionally, but spiritually, financially, relationally. You are entering the afterglow of obedience. And let's make something clear. This shift didn't happen overnight. This was years in the making. This was fought for in silence. There were times you wanted to quit, but you didn't. There were times you were misunderstood, but you kept walking. There were times you were mistreated, but you stayed kind. And every one of those choices became spiritual evidence, and now heaven has concluded. You are trustworthy. Now the testing may have been intense, but the reward will match it. What's about to unfold in your life is not a coincidence. It's compensation, and it's not just material. It's multidimensional. Peace, clarity, access, favor, alignment, creativity, provision, restoration, they're all part of the reward package. Because you didn't just pass one test, you passed many. Some seen, most unseen, and that's why this next level will feel tailor-made, because it is. This level doesn't come with confusion. It comes with confirmation. The kind that floods your soul. The kind that makes you weep in gratitude. The kind that makes all the waiting worth it. You'll begin to see why things didn't work out before, because you hadn't yet become the version of you that could handle what was being prepared. But now you have. You are that version, the refined version, the stable version, the aligned version. And everything is catching up to that. Let people wonder what happened. Let them question how it turned so quickly. Let them guess how the doors opened. Don't explain, just walk, don't defend. Just rise. This elevation is your divine response. Universe is echoing your essence now. Everything you went through has become power. You are not broken. You are branded, marked, sealed, elevated, approved. And this approval doesn't need permission. You don't need validation from those who missed your journey. You don't need acceptance from those who aren't qualified to walk beside you. This next Phase is for the chosen, not the curious. You're not here to convince Yanyan. You're here to become the evidence. You're the answer to prayers you didn't even know people were praying. You're the living proof that transformation is real, that faith works, that alignment activates. Thaddeus can't stop destiny. They only verify it. Let's go deeper now. Because what's being placed in your hands is more than a blessing. It's a responsibility, a divine mantle. You passed the test, and now you're being handed something weighty, something sacred. But it's not just about your elevation. It's about what your elevation will unlock in others. Chosen one, you're not just receiving a reward for endurance. You're stepping into a new identity, a role. You're becoming a pillar, a stabilizing force. The example that proves it's possible to go through the fire and still shine. What most people won't understand is that while others were chasing platforms, you were being purified in private. While others were building images, you were building integrity. And no, without trying to be noticed, you will be seen because you didn't pass the test for visibility. You passed for credibility. The heavens don't promote noise. They promote weight, and you've got it now. That rare spiritual weight that doesn't need to announce itself. It enters a room and everything adjusts. That's what the 1% carry. This next level of your journey is not about doing more. It's about being more. You're no longer functioning from survival. You're moving from stability. You've reached the point where clarity becomes your currency. Where your presence becomes prophetic, and you didn't get here by accident. You got here by sacrifice, quiet, consistent, daily obedience. The kind that no one clapped for, the kind that heaven watched. And now the world will witness. Don't be surprised if you start to feel a magnetic pull toward new places. It's not restlessness, it's resignment. What you passed through qualified you for a new spiritual geography. There are regions that are now opening to your presence. There are people waiting to receive from what your soul now contains. This is expansion not for ego but for impact. You will speak and things will shift. You will create and lives will change. You will lead and truth will follow. Because the test you passed didn't just change your life, it changed your frequency. People will begin to sense it. Even if they can't articulate it, they'll feel a strength in you they can't explain. A peace that doesn't come from comfort, a knowing that doesn't come from information. And that's because you've entered a divine rhythm, the rhythm of refined. You're not in a rush anymore because you know it's already written. You're not pressed to prove anything because you already passed what needed to be proven. And now you walk with quiet power. Let's talk about that power because it's not loud.
It's
not aggressive. It's rooted, grounded, subtle, but undeniable. Thekin that shifts atmospheres by simply being. The kind that transforms without performance. And this power, this divine residue from the fire you endured is exactly what qualifies you for divine access. You don't have to demand, Yodra, you don't have to pursue, you pull. Because the one who has passed the test doesn't need to chase favor, they are favor in motion. Everything is differento. You may not even fully recognize yourself. And that's a good thing, that's a sign you've evolved. What used to trigger you now teaches you. What is to drain you now dies in your absence. What used to confuse you now clarifies your path. That's the shift. That's the result of the inner refinement you walked through. And now know your discernment is sharper. Your spirit is more alert. Your vision is clearer. You are no longer navigating from emotion, but from essence. And let this be your confirmation. Everything that's coming is in response to the version of you that passed Thetis. Not the old you, not the struggling you, but the surviving, stable, spiritual you. You no longer have to grieve what didn't work. You no longer need to question why certain things were withheld. It's clear now, they weren't denials. They were divine delays until you became this. Until you pissed, until you could carry the weight. Without it crushing you, don't minimize what you've done. Most would have collapsed. Most would have given up, but you didn't. And because of that, your name has entered new conversations. Not by your doing, but by divine orchestration. The same way you were tested without an audience, you're now being honored without having to announce yourself. The results will speak. The results will resound. You'll begin to see the acceleration happen in ways that make people ask, how did they do that? But they'll never truly understand the cost. Because you didn't pass a test on paper, you passed in pain. You passed through surrender. Through days when nothing made sense, but you kept believing anyway. That's why what's coming is not just success, it's supernatural. It's not just progress, it's prophecy. This is divine fulfillment. This is the unfolding of destiny. The moment where what you saw in the spirit becomes what you experience in the natural. And what's more, you won't have to fight to keep it. You won't have to struggle to maintain it because you were built in fire. And what's forged in fire doesn't burn, it leads. You'll become a light to others still walking through their tests. Your story will become their blueprint. Your survival will become their confirmation. And your victory, it will break generational chains, not just for you. But for many, this test was bigger than you. It weighs about legacy. It was about you are not the same. You are not broken. You are branded by glory. And that brand doesn't fade. It shines. It attracts. It confirms. This isn't hype. This is holy. This isn't motivation. This is momentum. And that momentum is just beginning to pick up speed. You've passed the test. Now the gates are opening. The veil is lifting, and heaven is calling your name. You're not late. You're right on time. Let them wonder. Let them ask. Let them stare. Because when the hand of God moves, it's undeniable. And right now, it's on you. Let's pause and reflect on something powerful. Chosen one, your passing wasn't quiet in the spiritual realm. While the world remained unaware of the depths of what you endured, the heavens were roaring. Angels recorded your silence, your sacrifice, your surrender. There was no applause on earth, but there was a celebration in heaven. Every time you chose alignment over attention, discipline over indulgence, prayer over panic, there was a ripple in the spiritual dimension, and now that ripple is becoming a wave. It's coming back to you. Multiplied, magnified, unstoppable. There are things aligning for you that you didn't even pray for. Not because you forgot, but because you outgrew the need to ask. The test shaped your desires. It refined your hunger. It recalibrated your values. You no longer want what you once craved because the process grew you. Now you don't chase surface-level blessings. You attract substance. That's what makes you different. That's why you were chosen for the difficult path. The spiritual realm needed someone who wouldn't just survive the test but transform through it. And now you carry the scent of transformation. When people come into contact with you, they sense something that goes beyond appearance. They feel an energy shift. They feel the peace of someone who didn't break under pressure. They feel the clarity of someone who lost everything that wasn't true and found everything that was. That's your spiritual signature now. One that can't be imitated or purchased. It can only be earned through fire. Let's talk about the 1%. Because that phrase isn't just about rarity. It's about responsibility. You are now among the few who have crossed over. The few who did the inner work, not just the performance, not just the appearance, but the soul-level surrender. The few who answered the divine call without needing comfort in return. And now you've become a trustworthy to lead, guide, and awaken others. You're not just part of the 1% because you made it. You're part of it because now you make a difference. The weight you carry now is not to exhaust you. It's to empower you. This is the weight of glory. The burden of divine influence. The quiet authority of one woe speaks and shifts atmospheres. You'll begin to notice it. How people open up around you. How peace follows you. How situations bend in your favor without needing effort. It's not luck. It's not charm. It's favor. You are walking evidence that divine preparation precedes promotion. There will be moments when you feel unrecognizable to your past self. And that's exactly right. Because they are not the same person who began this journey. The test rewrote your identity. It dismantled old patterns. It dissolved false layers. It reprogrammed your frequency. And now you walk in your original blueprint. The design you had before life tried to distort you. That's why things will flow now. That's why the doors that once rejected you will now require you. You've returned to your divine code, and with that return comes release. Release of burdens you carried far too long. Release of people who never valued you. Release of timeliness that were never yours. Release of expectations that kept you small. Now you're not seeking permission. You're walking in confirmation. You don't need the world's agreement when heaven has already announced your arrival. You didn't pass the test to prove a point. You passed to step into purpose. Now the question becomes, what will you do with this level of clarity, power, and favor? And here is the truth. You won't have to figure it all out. The same God that assisted you is now guiding you. There will be sudden knowing, sudden inspiration, sudden doors, sudden yes moments that once seemed impossible. This is the reward of those who endured without bitterness. Your next instructions won't come with struggle. They'll come with stillness. Pay close attention in this season. Your intuition will speak louder. Divine appointments will accelerate. You'll meet people who feel familiar, even though you just met. That's destiny in action. That's alignment catching up with obedience. What you thought you missed, you're about to meet. What you thought was lost, you're about to live. You didn't miss your moment, you became it. And now everything is unfolding with divine rhythm. No more forcing, no more faking. No more fitting in where you were never meant to stay. You passed the test by refusing to shrink. You refused to lose your identity just to gain acceptance. That resistance wasn't rejection. It was your refinement. And no, your elevation will be impossible to deny. This is your chapter of recognition. Not just by people, but by destiny itself. Everything you need is already on its way. Resources, ideas, partnerships, platforms, they're coming because now you are the version of yourself that knows how to steward them. You won't waste what's coming. You won't self-sabotage like before. You've been emptied of ego, cleansed of chaos, and aligned with purpose. That's why this level feels different. It's not heavy, it's holy. Some people will still try to see you through your old lens. Let them, their view is outdated. You've been updated, upgraded, and upshifted. Your evolution was silent, but now your presence is loud. Your energy no longer asks to be understood. It simply speaks. It resonates. It moves things. Don't explain it. Embody it. Let your life become the answer. Let me tell you something divine. You are no longer in training. You are in transition. Transition into overflow, into impact, into fulfillment, into influence. And it's all organic, authentic, and divinely timed. The false has fallen away. The distractions have lost power. The noise longer confuses you. Now you walk with inner quiet, with bold humility, with powerful peace. And here's the best part. You're just getting started. This level you just entered, it's the foundation for the next. There's more to be revealed, more to be birthed, more to be manifested. But for now, rest in this truth. You've passed, you've become, you've arrived. And nothing can stop what's been divinely set in motion. Chosen one, now that you've passed, now that the unseen has been seen, and the unspoken has been confirmed, everything must and will begin to respond to the truth of who you've become. You're not walking into your season by force. You're being escorted into it by spiritual decree. And make no mistake, what's about to happen isn't random. It's a divine response. A reaction from the universe, from creation itself to your alignment, your purity, and your perseverance. Understand this. You didn't just survive a test. You survived. A system that tried to convince you that your voix didn't matter, that your purpose was too strange, that your dreams were too big, that your heart was too soft, that your light was too bright. But you didn't fold. You didn't edit yourself to fit the room. You didn't betray your calling just to be accepted. And now you are the room. You are the table. You are the invitation. And impact. There's a sacred irony at work now. The very places where you were overlooked will now have to overcompensate to catch up to you. The very people who couldn't see your value will have to watch as others treasure what they dismissed. But this is not about revenge. It's about revelation. This is not about proving your worth. It's about revealing your weight. That's what passing does. It separates, it distinguishes. It anoints. Don't be surprised if opportunities begin chasing you that once felt out of reach. Don't be shocked when things come easily that once took endless effort. It's not that the process is over, it's that the resistance has lifted. Because you don't owe the universe struggle, you've already paid.
And
What you've paid in silence will return in visibility. What you surrendered in private will come back as favor in public. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Let's be clear, you didn't earn this with hustle. You earned it with honor. You passed by staying in integrity when you had the chance to cheat. You passed by choosing grace when you could have chosen revenge. You passed by trusting the process when shortcuts were screaming your name. And no, your name is being whispered in divine rooms. Doors are opening not because you forced them, but because you became the key.